Let me ask you a philosophical question about this issue, because the issue that the FERPA issue is about admissions. It started as a question about the law school, but it's actually now been broadened, and again, we'll come to the Kroll investigation in a second. It's a more broad question about admissions and whether people of influence writing letters sought to impact the admissions process in some deleterious way. I don't mean this facetiously, but what's wrong with clout? What is wrong with somebody in a position of authority, elective office or somebody else, a regent?
What's right about it?
Well, I didn't ask you that. I asked you what's wrong with it. Theoretically, you'll tell me what's wrong with it.
Well,
what's wrong with it?
Well, part of it is when I ask you what's right with it, there's nothing right with it. You know, we've all seen our children or grandchildren or, you know, both, and families we know, I mean, struggle really hard. These kids work really hard to get to college.
Right.
And they're measured every step of the way. They get graded. They take all the, you know, the state tests. They take it, you know, they write the letters. They, you know, their essays. They work terrifically hard to get there. And they think there's a set of rules, okay, that everybody's playing by. This is what you do, and you compete. And this is the first step in their whole educational process. They either get in which case they know they made the grade, or they don't.
Or they don't.
And if they don't, they've learned nothing from the process, number one. They don't know why they didn't make it, okay? And, you know, so they don't make it. But, so look at it if it's like in the Olympics. You're showing up for the Olympics. And everybody's going to compete, and the winners get the medals, which I would say is a seat at the university, okay? Is it fair for somebody with clout to be able to have a special post-Olympics to where other kids can get in not having had competed against everybody? I don't think so.
So that's your issue. So do you feel the same way? One imagines that you feel the same way about legacy admissions, where you have an alumnus of a university whose child applies. Child may not be as academically qualified as other people who apply, don't have the benefit of that legacy relationship. Kid gets in because he's a legacy or she's a legacy. So theoretically, based on that logic,
well, certainly,
legacy admissions is also bad.
Well, certainly for public institutions, at one point in time, I didn't think I had that big a problem with it. And Regent Alex Cranberg and I had lengthy discussions, and then as my exposure to higher ed lengthened, I've come around.
You've come around.
I've come around, and while I think there is certainly from the development perspective, there's a place for legacies because there's certainly, you know, big endowment money that can be raised. I think if you're going to do it, I think if you're going to do anything where there's clout that gets to be wielded, it just needs to be known. Everybody needs to know.
So you would make it so that through the admissions process, the fact that one had a relative, parent or grandparent or so on, who was an alumnus of the university, you would make it so that that status had no bearing at all on admissions.
Well, it has no. It's legally not supposed to have any status now.
Right.
I mean, it's precluded by law the way.
Right, but you and I both know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know why people get in.
Right. Well, let me ask the question in a different way. I have a high school senior this year, and so we've been traveling around looking at colleges around the country. And what I hear in every admissions office around the country is, we build a class. It's not all about test scores. It's not all about grades. We want to build a class. Now, I'm talking specifically about the undergraduate portion of this controversy.
Right.
Why shouldn't the admissions office have the latitude to build a class? They need a tuba player. They need a center for the football team. To give two examples, they may not have the highest test scores. They may not have the best grades. But the discretion of the admissions office has historically been, not just here, but theoretically in higher ed broadly, you build a class. So why are test scores and grades dispositive of this? Why is there not the latitude that has historically been enjoyed by admissions offices to build a class?
Well, I think there is latitude. I'm not advocating against.
You just don't like that kind of latitude. You don't like latitude that involves letters being.
I certainly think, you know, if you're talking about a private institution,
right.
They have the latitude to keep everything secret and do whatever they want.
Right.
But we're talking about the public institutions. I don't think that's appropriate. You know, if you're a U.S. senator, you have the right to appoint, you know, a number of people to the military academies.
Correct.
It's known. It's known. So if we want to do that in Texas, if we want, you know, the senators and House reps to have the ability to get people into universities, let's just be upfront about it. You know, let's make sure everybody understands, you know, when clout's being used.
Let's be transparent.
Make it transparent. That's what I'm pushing for.
There are 15 institutions in the UT system. As far as I know, the only institution whose admissions you've been focused on University of Texas at Austin. Have you asked to see letters written on behalf of applicants to the other system institutions by legislators?
No, I have not.
Why not?
Well,
That feeds the
Yeah.
conspiracy that this is a UT Austin deal.
yeah. So I've visited, I want to say 13 out of the 15 institutions. I'm probably down in Austin on average once a week.
Okay.
I spend between, on average 20 to 40 hours a week on UT system business, a lot. I mean, I've set aside my family time, business time, put a lot into this. Some of the task force, so the problem that I've found was at UT Austin. It wasn't at UT Dallas.
But you haven't not found a problem at those other campuses, you just haven't looked.
That's true. That's
Will-
true.
will you be looking?
But it's kind of like the license gifts, the software license gifts to UT. I was accused of picking on Austin. Well, I mean, there were other universities that we had that also had some of these that need to be removed.
But that was your focus.
Sorry.
But the UT Austin case was your focus specifically in that case.
Well, that's what brought it to my attention, and then
Right.
we did a review of the entire system.
Right.
So I don't think that's appropriate to look at it. Just because President or Chancellor Cigarella has lost trust in President Powers doesn't mean I need to go scan the other 14 presidents.
I guess I'm just trying to understand how endemic an issue you consider this to be and how systemic your fix is intended to be. Reeve Hamilton of the Tribune wrote a story a couple of months ago about letters written by some of those very same legislators to the president and chancellor of Texas A&M University System. Same deal. I'm not a big believer in everybody does it so it's okay, but it has been kind of a never thus thing. And where do you stop? And have you gone to your fellow regents at A&M and Tech and said you need to do what we're doing here and ferret out undue influence on admissions, or are you just focused only on this?
I'm spending all my time on the UT system.
Right.
But the issue is we don't know what's going on. Chancellor is now conducting an investigation, which is
Right.
underway, and we don't know what's actually happening yet. Until you actually know the breadth and
The
depth
magnitude of the issue.
and
Right.
if it's taking place,
Right.
how does it work? What does it look like? And then
Right.
then when you figure that out, then you can make adjustments and fix the problem on a system-wide basis.
Can you help